The moment my mother grabbed my wrist and whispered, "Don't embarrass us tonight," I should have walked out of that wedding before it even started. But I didn't, because no matter how badly my family treated me, some stupid part of me still wanted them to love me. I'm 33 years old, and somehow I was still chasing approval from people who had already decided my younger sister, Vanessa, was the golden child. Always prettier, always smarter, always more successful. And that night, her wedding looked like something straight out of a celebrity magazine. $38,000 for one evening. Crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. White roses everywhere. A live jazz band. Guests in designer suits and gowns, pretending they actually liked each other while sipping champagne. That probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Meanwhile, I stood near the back entrance in a dark blue dress I bought on clearance 3 days earlier because my mother specifically told me not to. Outshine the bride. Yeah, she actually said that. You already draw enough attention with your drama, she told me over the phone. Drama. That's what my family called the fact that I worked 2 jobs after my divorce while helping pay Dad's medical bills for almost 2 years, none of which Vanessa ever helped with. But somehow she was still the successful daughter. I should have known the night was going to turn ugly when my father handed me a tray of champagne glasses 5 minutes before the ceremony. At first, I thought he was joking. Then he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Since you couldn't contribute financially to the wedding, at least make yourself useful." I actually froze. My own father, in front of guests, treating me like hired staff. And the worst part, people heard him. I saw 2 women near the aisle glance at me with those fake, sympathetic smiles people give when they're enjoying your humiliation a little too much. My face burned so badly I thought I might cry right there. But then Vanessa walked over, adjusted her expensive veil, smiled sweetly at me, and quietly said something that completely shattered whatever was left of my relationship with my family. Try not to ruin my wedding the way you ruined your marriage. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. Vanessa smiled like she hadn't just stabbed me straight through the chest, then turned and floated back toward her bridesmaids, while everyone around her laughed and admired her dress. And I just stood there holding that stupid champagne tray like an idiot. I wish I could say I walked out right then. I didn't, because humiliation does something strange to you when it comes from your own family. It makes you desperate to prove you're not the problem. So I swallowed it. Again, the ceremony started 20 minutes later, and I stayed hidden near the back wall while guests cried over Vanessa's vows like she was some kind of fairy tale princess. Meanwhile, my mother barely looked at me all night unless she needed something. Go check on the dessert table. Tell the bartender we need more champagne. Move those gift boxes before the photographer sees them. Not once did she say, "Thank you." Not once did she say, "You look beautiful." I felt invisible. Actually, worse than invisible, useful, like the family only remembered. I existed when they needed somebody to clean up behind them. Then came dinner. That's when everything exploded. The wedding planner suddenly rushed over looking panicked, whispering something into my father's ear. His entire face changed color. He stood up so fast his chair almost fell backward. Vanessa looked terrified. At first I thought maybe somebody got hurt. But then my mother turned toward me with this cold, accusing expression I knew way too well. And somehow, I instantly understood. They were going to blame me. My father stormed across the reception hall and grabbed my arm so hard it actually hurt. "Where is it?" he hissed. I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" "The payment," he snapped. The final transfer never came through. The room around us suddenly felt quiet. Too quiet. Guests were staring now. Vanessa walked over in her white gown, eyes full of panic and anger. "You told Dad you handled it," she said. I felt my stomach drop. That's when I realized what they'd done. 3 weeks earlier, my father asked me to temporarily move money through my business account because his daily transfer limit was blocked during wedding payments. I helped because, stupidly, I trusted him. But standing there in front of 200 wedding guests, hearing them accuse me like I'd stolen from them, something inside me finally cracked. And what my father screamed at me next changed everything forever. My father pointed at me in front of everyone and shouted, "You always ruin everything." The entire ballroom went silent. Even the band stopped playing. I could feel every pair of eyes locked on me while Vanessa started crying dramatically into my mother's shoulder like she was the victim in all this. And then my father said the one thing I will never forget for the rest of my life. "You're jealous of your sister, so you sabotaged her wedding." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because after years of being blamed for everything, something inside me finally snapped so hard that I couldn't hold it in anymore. Sabotaged it? I repeated. Are you serious right now? My mother stepped closer and lowered her voice through clenched teeth. If you took the money, return it now before security gets involved. That's when I realized they truly believed they could publicly destroy me and I would still stay quiet. But they made one massive mistake. They forgot I had proof. I slowly pulled out my phone while my hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. You want the truth? I said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Fine. I opened my banking app, then my email records, then the signed transfer authorization my father personally sent me. The final payment had never failed. It had been completed successfully, 21 days earlier, straight into my father's private account. Not the wedding account, his account. The color drained from his face instantly. Vanessa stopped crying, and suddenly I understood exactly what had happened. The wedding was way more expensive than they could afford. Dad had secretly used the payment money to cover his gambling debts first, probably thinking he could replace it before the wedding date. But he ran out of time, so when the venue demanded the remaining balance during the reception, they needed somebody to blame. Me. My father lunged toward me and tried grabbing my phone, but by then it was too late. Several guests had already seen the screen. One man near the front actually muttered, "Jesus Christ." Another woman whispered, "They tried to frame their own daughter." The humiliation on my parents' faces was finally matching the humiliation they dumped on me my entire life. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel weak anymore. I felt angry. Calm angry. The dangerous kind. So I looked directly at Vanessa, wiped my tears away, and said the words that destroyed her perfect wedding in less than 60 seconds. I paid for more of this wedding than either of you did. You could actually hear people gasping around the ballroom. Vanessa's face went completely pale. My mother kept shaking her head like if she denied it hard enough, reality would somehow change. But I was done protecting them, done staying quiet, done sacrificing myself so they could keep pretending we were some perfect family. I gave Dad nearly $14,000 over the last year, I said, my voice shaking. Not for a wedding. For bills, debt, mortgage payments. And apparently gambling too. My father looked furious now, but underneath the anger was panic. Real panic. Because the guests were no longer looking at me with pity. They were looking at him with disgust. Within minutes, people started leaving. Tables. Whispering, staring, the bride's side of the room. Looked like a collapsing movie set. And the final blow? The venue manager walked directly over to my father and demanded immediate payment. Before the reception could continue, he couldn't pay. Not even close. The wedding ended almost an hour early. No grand farewell, no magical ending. Just silence, embarrassment, and shattered lies. I walked out alone that night, feeling like my chest had been ripped open, but weirdly lighter too. Then, exactly 24 hours later, my phone started exploding with calls. Mom, Dad, Vanessa, over and over. Voicemails, texts, crying. Please come home so we can talk. We're still family. Your father made mistakes. But the message that hit me hardest came from my mother. I didn't realize how much we hurt you until you stopped protecting us. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I quietly blocked every single number. Because for the first time in my life, I finally understood something. Losing toxic family doesn't destroy you. Sometimes, it's the thing that finally sets you free.